Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, and buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction pod. Consider this some stoppage time here as we review Lazio Atalanta. I'm your host, Sean McIntosh, joined as not so always because he likes to take breaks during Champions League matches, Caleb Adams. What's up, Caleb?
Hey, man. How you feeling?
Man, 1 second I'm feeling great, 1 second I'm feeling low, and then back to feeling fantastic again. What a big 3 points. How are you feeling, Caleb?
Like you said, it was just an emotional roller coaster. It was like one of the best starts we've had in terms of just events that happen. Go up early 2-0 away from home against Atalanta. And, man, I was thinking, oh, this is great. Now we're cruising here. Now we're just going to hold this on. Maybe we can get a third. And then they equalized, and then the winner, it's all over the place.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in. This match saw Lazio getting off to a quick start off of a corner kick. Luis Alberto finding some success at set pieces. We know how frustrated we've been in that area of the game, but swings in a nice ball. And, on first look, I thought Casale actually came away with a goal, but it was Mr. Charles De Ketelare with an own goal at the 5-minute mark. And not even 6-7 minutes later, at the 11th minute mark, Mr. Tati Castellanos finding himself with his first Serie A goal for this club. A nice, clean finish and a beautiful, beautiful ball whipped in by Felipe Anderson. And here we are, 2-0. We feel really great about it. But by all indications, we are dominating the match. And then 33rd minute, in typical fashion, we allow and concede essentially a free header, an unmarked man, and we go into half 2-1. And then 63rd minute, we give up the match tying goal, and we have to feel like we're in danger of dropping points yet again until the 83rd minute. Mr. Mattias Vecino, who has been an absolute stud, who has I said he's doing his best Milinkovic-Savic impression for us this season, comes away with the 83rd minute goal to close out this match 3-2 Lazio in dramatic fashion. So Caleb, 3 words to describe this one. What do you got?
Needed for momentum. This is the first time we've put together 2 wins this season, 2 results that we feel positive afterwards. And I think it's huge for sort of shifting and getting over that hump that we've been in since the very beginning of the season. So it was much needed for momentum. If we had drawn that game, conceding 2 goals like that, it would have been killer. It could have been incredibly draining for fans, but most of all the players, right? And so I thought it was exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something to build momentum from. We haven't been able to string a couple games of positive results. Now, this back-to-back 3 points for us. Unfortunately, it's not back-to-back in Serie A, so hopefully we do turn this into a string of 3 points in Serie A, which we need in order to see ourselves climb the table. But for me, my 3 words are another great response. And for me, it's about those responses when moments get really, really challenging. And we saw that response in the Celtic match when we concede. It's looking really grim. We seem to have taken our foot off the gas. We allow the other team to have so much momentum. And this is a side that's relied on confidence in the past and has gotten down on themselves and just given matches away. And that Celtic one for me, it was a nice reaction when we went down, and And I saw the same today, because for me, we came out dominant, great, and would I have loved to have seen us just end this match early on, right? We saw that there was an opportunity to, and we weren't able to finish that chance. And
Yep.
it was the 14-minute mark, and it was an opportunity to go up 3-0. Ball falls to Casale, and he's a center back. He's not known as a clinical finisher. So and there was a nice save, but a match that we ultimately concede to after being up. An easy one for us to do a couple things: either just completely give up the match and allow Atalanta to take advantage of the momentum they had, and
Right.
Atalanta did well to come back into this one, and so they very well could have walked away with 3 points themselves, or we could have taken the approach of just buckling down at that point, being happy to walk away with the draw.
Yep.
So for me, it was about that response to continue fighting and come away with all 3 points. So for me, that response was everything today. And it rolls into where I thought the match was won. For me, I thought this match was actually won by our substitutions. And I think, again, we concede in the 63rd minute, and a lot of that had been building up. Atalanta looked like they were the more dangerous side.
Yeah.
But after we had conceded, in and around that time, even prior to conceding that goal, we made some very impactful substitutions. Pedro for Zaccagni and Vecino for Luis at the 55th minute mark. And while we conceded a little bit after that, I thought the play of Pedro and the play of Vecino were absolutely instrumental. And then after we conceded the goal, we made a substitution of Kamada, and then we ultimately brought in Isaacson for Felipe. And those players, absolutely electric. Isaacson brought in some incredible energy, and Pedro, continued to threaten. Those two players in their 30 minutes of match time did more in this match than I thought Felipe Anderson. And granted, Felipe did have the assist for Tati, but I thought after that, very, very quiet. And Zaccagni had a very, very quiet match. So those two wingers, I thought, brought new life to the match. And we saw a Lazio that was much more on the front foot, that looked like they were trying to take this match. Where did you think the match was won?
I think it's the same area. It reminded me a lot of the Celtic game in a lot of ways. We brought in some subs, and we looked so much more alive. Vecino came in, right, again in that game against Celtic, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And it was very much that. It was very much like we talked about depth. We talked about, how can these new players make an impact, even if they're not starting, right? Because in the past, we've been so reliant on that first 11. It's a great feeling to know, and it's great to see that, hey, even if our first team guys don't get it done, hope is not lost. We still got some great dudes off the bench that come hungry, come with energy, and have most of all the skill set and ability to win games, which we saw in. And also, speaking of substitutes, well, not a substitute this game, he did substitute the starting striker, Ciro Immobile, which is Tati Castellanos, who had to come in for a hurt Ciro, as far as I'm aware, and had to come in and put in a shift against one of the better sides in Serie A, and came out with a goal and an assist. So yeah,
let's talk about that Tati performance. How did you rate it? Let's talk about our man of the match. Where do you stack that up?
Well, I actually had him as our man of the match that game. He had the goal, he had the assist, and I thought that he pretty much did everything you want out of a striker in this game, right? He hustled hard, he ran out, he pressed well, he held up play really well. He has some nice little touches and stuff to release the team, as well as win fouls for the team in situations where we needed to get that reset in. And he was clinical on the goal. That's why people are going to say, hey, that's a tap and that's wide open goal. But he caught that thing on the volley. I mean, that is still not a brainless sort of finish. It was a great ball by Felipe, but he was composed, didn't mess it up, put in the back of the net. and then did great to win that header to square it over to Vecino, who ended up also with a great finish himself for that goal. So I'm going to go with Tati Castellanos in this game for me personally. How about you?
So I would agree. What's interesting is of course I thought Tati had a fantastic match, but prior to that assist, I mean that assist sealed it for me, and that's where I ultimately kind of changed my mind who I had, because I thought a very underrated performance from Rovella, and what I really liked about Rovella today was what he was doing on the defensive end. I can't tell you how many times I took down the note of another massive tackle by Rovella, another massive tackle by Rovella, another massive tackle by Rovella, tackles in the box, tackles that eliminated Atalanta's threatening opportunities. I mean, what an absolute beast in that midfield. We talk so much, and pundits like to talk about his abilities on the offensive end, and his playmaking opportunities, and how he can find the right man, and how lively he is. But just his defensive presence, for me, that really allowed us to stunt Atalanta in so many ways, where the game could have been a lot more dangerous than. I mean, we conceded 2, but it could have been uglier. I thought, for me, that was so big. That really changed and allowed us to keep it at what it was. So massive kudos. But then, again, of course, Tati walks away with a nice clean finish. Like you said, it's not easy. He had to bury it. It was off of a volley. And that header, the header down to Vecino, who again had to bury it. Just he has to walk away with man of the match for me. What a beautiful performance by him. And what I love so much about what Tati brings is what I love, and why so many Laziali love Ciro. It is a lot of the intangibles. It's his effort. I mean, he's always running. He's always pushing. Up through the 90th minute, he's still pressuring a defense. And when your striker is doing that, it wakes everybody else up, right? If your goal scorers are doing that, it really puts the pressure on your midfielders, center backs, everybody else to put in that effort. So
absolutely,
what a round of applause for Tati Castellanos. Massive match for him.
Yeah, no, it was great from him, and like you said, he's an elegant player. Like, he is aesthetically pleasing to watch, but he's also a grinder and a hustler. You love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, he. In terms of, again, that attacking trio, he was the one that stood out. I mean, Felipe with the assist, but I didn't love his overall performance. Zaccagni pretty quiet. Interesting note here on our comments from Erfan Goharian. Is it a coincidence that after the Celtic match, Zaccagni and Alberto are subbed again, and again we found one chance and we scored? Both from crosses. So, I think it really adds to your point, Caleb, that there is some depth in this squad, and we have players that are taking advantage of opportunities to come in and make an impact. This is the first time in a long time that we've had players come in and add to the quality. And so when players like Felipe are having an off night, Isaacson is proving quite dangerous. I love what we saw today from Camara when he comes in and plays a little bit more of that Luis Alberto role. I thought he did really nicely. How do you think, in terms of attacking players, which one stood out for you aside from Tati?
Yeah, I mean, immediately we got to talk about Isaacson. He's a player that he has something different about his dribble. Like, he is different. He definitely has talent. We've seen it. He's had very brief instances where he's shown it, because honestly, he hasn't really had much game time. He normally gets maybe the last 10 minutes of games. But what I love about him is that every time he touches the ball, he faces up his defender. Very rarely do I see him, and maybe sometimes it can be bad, but for me personally, in a winger, I love a hungry, persistent, relentless winger who every time he touches the ball, he turns and faces that defender. How many times do you see him passing backwards? How many times do you see him take a touch and pass it backwards? Rarely. He immediately turns, squares himself, and if he sees an opening, he is taking it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in a lot of cases, if he's one-on-one, he has shown that he beats that guy and that he, at the very least, drags defenders out of position because someone has to come and help. And he's just so silky on the ball, man. And it's incredible. His touch, how tight he can keep it to it, keep the ball to him. And so I was super impressed with him. And I think with particularly how Felipe has played this year, which has been poor for most of the year, I think Isaacson has a case to maybe start a game or two. Maybe we need to rotate in a midweek match, maybe against a lesser opponent, or maybe it's a team that we're going to possess more of the ball of, and we need to really have players that can unlock that team. I think he deserves at least to start at some point here, right? I think that he's borne himself that.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he's gotten one start and it wasn't the best of matches, but obviously you see a player growing in confidence.
Yes.
I mean, immediately. Look, he was subbed on into the 77th minute, and minute 78. He is able to get by his man in a dangerous area and then wins us a corner. Yep. Minute 79, not even 1 minute later, he again gets by his man, taken down right outside of the box, earns a yellow against his defender, and puts us in a position of taking a set piece in a dangerous area. So that's an immediate impact. He is so shifty. And he is by no means is he this type of a player, completely different positions, but like the way he was shifting today, his body to get by his man, remind me a lot of Senad Lulic, who used to play on the left side for Lazio. And like Senad wasn't a really fast player, but he had just this like quirky body shifts that would get by his man. I mean, it was really nice to see, but Isaacson's a little bit more explosive. And it was nice. It was nice confidence from him. And again, for us in the match, when it's level, it was so nice to see us go for it, not passing the ball back, being okay with walking away with a point. So because a point at this point in the season against a team like Atalanta, who is ahead of us in the table, would have done nothing. So really, really great to see us go that route of being aggressive. Again, taking a look now at the table, speaking of, sees us in 12th, Atalanta at 6th. We find ourselves with 10 points going into international break. So, top four, Napoli still has yet to play their matches. They're at 14 points, but it starts to be a little bit of a manageable situation going into international break. But look, we talked about some of our positive players. Getting back to this match, who was your bidone?
Oh, man. I want to say Zaccagni, maybe. It's between Zaccagni, who was just all completely ineffective today, and I mean, there was someone abysmal this game, but I'm going to go with Zaccagni because based off of last season, like this guy is supposed to be our in a way game winner. This guy is one supposed to create things happen, create things out wide. He is the one he has the ability to take on whoever. And he has yet to kind of find sort of that rhythm again this year. And so I thought he was really invisible. I will say he did come back on defense a few times that made some nice tackles, made some stops. Like you can never doubt that Zaccagni does put in shifts in terms of getting back on defense. But we're really lacking that extra sort of spark from him in that final third. And Tati, I believe, was largely by himself in that front three today. I largely feel that Tati was just the only one that was present that game, aside from Felipe assist. And you need your striker. Cheeto suffered a bit this year because of that, right? And it sort of affected his image as well in his performances and his production, is having wingers that just aren't doing the creating for them, right? And so I'll go with Zaccagni in this one. How about you?
So Zaccagni is a good shout. I think similarly, Luis Alberto
Yeah,
didn't have one of his best matches. I'm
he was annoying
actually
too.
looking, and I meant to send these to you. I took some screenshots of Atalanta's first goal.
Hmm.
My immediate reaction, like most people's, is to be upset at your center backs and just trying to figure out whose man was it, who should have been marking, because it's another unmarked man,
Hmm.
and Romagnoli. It seems to be a little bit of miscommunication of perhaps who should be on what player, and there's a couple telling screenshots though, because we've talked about our midfield being
Hmm.
so displaced sometimes from the rest of the team, and you just see a Luis Alberto watching. I mean, he's literally
Mm.
watching, and
Mm.
you look at it, review the film. Luis is staring at unmarked
Mm.
at unmarked individuals, and for me, he's wearing the captain's armband. He needs to be shouting. He needs to be running, even if it's not his man. He needs to be taking that ownership. So, just a not one of his finest performances. Obviously, didn't do a ton in attack today.
Yeah,
It was fine, but just in terms of expectations with him, you expect better.
yeah.
Um, and when you see the likes, and to the positive, when you see the likes of a Vecino coming in or Kamada and those guys performing, it probably is time to let Luis Alberto rest a little bit.
Please.
Yeah, and we've talked about wanting to see. I was actually happy with what this starting lineup looked like early in the
Yeah.
match. I was pretty excited to see Rovella back in there. I was excited to see Guendouzi. But the trio that I want to see, that I've been asking for, is a Kamada, Rovella, Guendouzi
Yeah.
trio, just to
Same.
give Luis a little bit of a break. But a little bit of a break we have coming, because it is
Hmm.
international break.
Hmm.
So for a few days, we'll have the opportunity to rest before we return to Serie A fixtures. And
Hmm.
the fixture list gets a little bit easier.
Hmm.
I think that's important because while you look at our points total and where we are at the table, and it's easy to be upset about it and depressed about it, but we have to remind ourselves that it's been an incredibly tough schedule to start the
Hmm.
year. I mean, when we talk about Napoli, Juve, Milan, all on the road to start the season, then you throw in Atalanta to get that out of the way,
Mm.
and to walk away with 6 points out of those games, it's it's pretty strong.
Hmm.
It's pretty akin to what we did last year. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
on pace to what we did last year. Yes, we threw away some matches against teams that we shouldn't throw away, but we did that last year. Big difference this year. We win against Torino. It's a big 3 points against them, and so I think we just got to turn this into a little bit of momentum, and we've got to turn this into a win streak. What are some of the positives that you feel like you can take away?
I think that for me, urgency. I think that was what we've been saying from the very start. Was that, hey, the talent's there, the roster's there, but we're still in preseason, right? We felt like a lot of those first three games, at least up until the I can't remember now, but up until the Napoli win, it was like, did we realize that regular season has started? Do we realize that these games matter now? We're not in preseason. So for me, the biggest thing is urgency. Not come back from because it was after the national break is when we played Milan, right?
Uh,
No, who was it?
After our last,
Juventus.
yes,
After the last international break, what I don't want to see happening is coming back from international break and coming out sleeping like we did against Juventus. So carry that same sort of urgency, carry that same sort of desire to win. We saw that today. We were not content with the draw away, which is amazing. Which we could very well have said, "Hey, let's pack it up, try and get this draw and get out of here before things get worse." So keep bringing that same urgency, that same desire to win, even after the national break, and the rest will start to come.
well, here's some benefits of this international break. One, we're at least going into it with some positive momentum. nice 3 points. We know how frustrated Sadi gets with the amount of games in a schedule. He's threatened to quit his career as a football manager, because of it. And what Sadi loves so much is the day-to-day training.
Yeah.
His system is intricate. He needs the time with the players. So this is going to give him some time to actually practice with his squad.
Yeah.
I think the other positive is that some of our guys will actually have an opportunity to rest up because of not being called into international duty. So Ciro Immobile, who is injured, has not been called up. Hopefully an opportunity for him to get some rest and see himself back. We don't have Romagnoli and Casale called up, so those guys getting a much needed break. Kamada hasn't been called up to the Japanese national team, so a chance for him to rest up and again spend some more time with the squad. Zakani has been called up, but if you're comparing this to the last international break, we have a lot less players that are going to be away from the side. So and coming back with us playing Sassuolo instead of a Juventus, has to be looked at as a positive. And that's by no means that we're going to just come in and guarantee ourselves anything against Sassuolo, who is actually ahead of us in the table. And who has also come out and played some really strong matches this year, including beating said Juventus 4-2 this year. So, coming back with that right mentality, that urgency, and we've got to string together some matches, and it starts hopefully with Sassuolo, because then we've got Champions League against Feyenoord, and then Serie A action against Fiorentina, Bologna, and then all leading up, back to Champions League, but it all leads up to November 12th, the Derby della Capitale, in a match that obviously needs no introduction. So this is the time of year to rack these points up and hopefully fight our way back. So how do you feel? We've pulled out a panic meter many times, and we've set on wins a little bit of a hype meter. Where's your hype meter stand on this squad post this win?
I'm at a 5. I'm not getting hyped still. This great results. And I also want to we touch on a lot of the positives. I also want to touch on one negative from the match that I want to see us work on in this break. And we noticed in this game and the game against Milan, the 6-yard area, people are getting the ball freely there. Pulisic scored from nearly the same spot where they scored the header today, the wide open header. The good thing about this is these are preventable goals. It's not like we are getting like world-class goal scored against us. These are just little things where it's like, hey guys, let's put an extra emphasis on making sure we mark those players coming to the box or in the box and around that 6 area. And we'll concede less goals. I mean, so many goals have come from that area this year. And so I do want to touch on that really briefly, because I think it's important to say that if we just did a better job of that today, we wouldn't have been stressing.
It's the set piece defending too. Those are areas of communication. Those are areas that you can fix and work on the training grounds. So hopefully that is done during this time, because again, while it was a delight to score 3 times, despite one of them being an own goal, and we don't often score 3 in a season this year, and hopefully that's just signs of our attack coming to life. But we can't continue giving up 2 goals in a match. And again, that is a far cry from this squad that was so dependent on clean sheets last year. So it's got to be cleaned up. And we've said it, like, our center backs aren't the cause of it.
They're not.
I didn't, Hisai got beat a few times today. Lookman was quite dangerous. I mean, quite literally bodied Hisai towards the end of the match. Marusic on the goal that we conceded to level the match just was poor positioning. I know there was a complaint. He thought he might have been pushed off a little bit, but when you look at the replays, it's just bad positioning. He gives the attacker the inside advantage, and he just accepts it. So just slight little changes like that don't allow it to be so easy on our opponents. I think you're right. Those things all have to be worked on, and if we just give up one less goal,
and and like that's why my hype meter is a bit reserved, because if we start doing that and we start putting together a complete team defensive performance and scoring 2 goals a game, okay, we're back. But until then, still got work to do.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. A 5. This game gives me a little bit of hope. I'll say a 6. I'll actually change. I'll say mine's a little bit more optimistic, just because this is an Atalanta side that we've struggled with, and this does show us that we have an ability to win big matches. We are still that team. We are still a team this year that has come away with 3 against Napoli and now 3 against Atalanta. So for us to win half of those big matches is really strong, particularly since the 2 that we lost were also on the road. So now it's about taking care of matches like Sassuolo and Fiorentina and your smaller sides, like Bologna coming up as well. So at least we've got signs, and at least we can go into international break a little bit content with what we're seeing. So we'll be excited to obviously cover Sassuolo with you all. Please make sure, if you like what you're hearing, if you are a Lazio supporter or love Serie A Calcio, please give this channel on YouTube a subscription. Follow, like us, give us those 5-star ratings on your audio platforms. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as all other social media. We're on TikTok, like all the kids are, Instagram and Twitter. So help us grow this podcast. We're trying to bring more and more content to Lazio fans all over the world. As always, though, sempre forza Lazio.